Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue.
Just to give you, not to scare you, but just to give you an idea of how deeply they have studied these. I mentioned in the last class that there are not just these 5 well-known theories of error: Atmakhyati, Asatkhyati, then Akhyati, Anyatha Khyati, Anirvachaniya Khyati. But there are some, in a book I found 15 different theories of error. And somebody asked me, what's that book? Because this is not well known. Don't go out and buy the book. You won't get it anyway. It's a rare book. It's called a Critique of the Theories of Viparjaya. Viparjaya means error. So this whole book is about error. Book is not an error. It's about error. And if you look at, it's by Nanilal Sen, who's a Vedanta teacher from Rabindra Bharati University, published in 1965. If you look at the contents, that's all I want to mention today. Not just 5 theories of error, but you have 15 theories of error here. I can just rattle out the names. Nirvishaya Khyati, Niradhisthana Khyati, Akhyati, Alaukika Khyati, Prasiddhartha Khyati, Anya Khyati, Sadasad Khyati, Atma Khyati, Asat Khyati, Sad Khyati, Viveka Akhyati, Anyatha Khyati, Anirvachaniya Khyati, and so on. I mean, just the level of subtlety these people have gone into in discussing, and this is for just about every aspect of metaphysics. All right, I wanted to discuss some more, but we'll stop now. Use the time for the stories. The stories are the nice part, and then maybe some other time we can go on discussing. But just do look at the handout, which contains the lecture of Professor Mani Dravid Shastri, which discusses material drawn from many of these commentators and sub-commentators. What I wanted to discuss today, I'll just indicate and leave it there, but all the material is there in the handout. Shankaracharya gives an example of Adhyasa, error. Not the classic rope snake example. He uses another classic example. Shuktika hi rajatavad avabhasate. This is well known. He says, error, Adhyasa is well known in the world. Everybody experiences it. For example, the seashell, the nacre or the seashell, it appears to be silver. So this is a old Sanskrit kind of example. In Sanskrit literature, you'll find a person walking along the seashore suddenly sees something glittering and thinks it's silver, and he runs there. But it's actually nacre, shuktika, seashell. It's flashing in the sunlight, thinks it's silver, and when he goes there, he finds it's not silver. So, the old adage, all that glitters is not gold. So basically that example. And the other example he gives of a mistake is ekas chandra sad dvitiya vad bhati. Moon being one appears to be many, appears to be 2 moons. So when you look at the moon, maybe the nice full moon out there, if you press your eyelid, you'll find 2 moons coming up. Or if you put, like pots of water and the moon is reflected there, as many pots of water you put, so many little moons will be reflected there. So now a person, normally we are not fooled, but when a person who doesn't know, maybe sometimes eye drop, if you put for eye examination, some kind of, put a medicine, then you start seeing double after that. So a person who might not know might think that there are 2 people there where there's actually 1 person. You see 2 people like that. So that's an error. And he gives these 2 examples. Seashell appears like silver. Rajatavat in Sanskrit, Rajatavat bhati. Seashell appears like silver. Now that he used the word like, that word like in Sanskrit word vat, like, not even a word, it's a suffix. Rajatavat, like silver, suffix in Sanskrit. Just that half a word. If you read the handout, you'll see what a storm of controversy it has generated. The opponents just pounce on that. What do you mean here? And here Shankaracharya is trying to push the idea that this world is not ultimately real, not unreal also. It's neither real nor unreal, a third category, which is it calls Anirvachaniya, product of Maya. That theory is trying to push. There's an enormous pushback from multiple opponents, and page after page. Like there are dozens of debates going on around just this half a word, what like. Give you one example of such a question, and then I'll stop. I had 10 examples actually. I had made a list, but I'll give you just one. The opponent says to you, the non-dualist, or to Shankaracharya, look, if you say the world is false, however, how will we distinguish between right knowledge and false knowledge, between true and false, between right and wrong? Why? Because there is a real snake, and you make a mistake, and you see a rope as a snake, then you can correct yourself. This is not a real snake. The one in the zoo or in the cage is the real snake, and this one is the mistake. There is real water. By mistake, you see water in the desert where there's none, and you can distinguish. This is false. That's right. But if you say the whole universe itself is unreal, is an appearance, is false, then how will you distinguish between what is right and wrong? What is true and false? If there are some things which are true, and sometimes by mistake you see some things falsely, you can distinguish. But everything is an appearance. How will you distinguish between right and wrong? So this is the question. And Shankaracharya there, I mean, the sub-commentators actually, they bring out some very subtle points of Advaita Vedanta. They say, what is the distinction between right and wrong is, but true and false, is the knowledge of cancellation. That is, they call it badha, sublation or cancellation. What is this? That when the person sees a rope as a snake, when the person realizes it's not a snake, it's a rope, this is in Sanskrit called badha. In English, it's called sublation or correction. The knowledge, oh, it's not a snake. Though I saw it to be a snake, it's not a snake, it's a rope. This knowledge is called the correcting knowledge, badha, sublation. And until when this occurs, you say what you saw earlier was false, and what you see now is true. To illustrate the difference, the Buddhist Vijnanavadin will say that no, the criterion of truth or falsity is if it works, it's true. If it fails to work, it's false. So there's water. I'm thirsty. I drink the water. If I go to the water and I can drink it, it quenches my thirst. It's real. It's real water. If I go there, it fades out and vanishes. Oh, it's a mirage. It didn't work. So if it practically works, it's true. If it doesn't work, it's false. Who says this? The Buddhist. This is the Buddhist idealist, and their criterion of truth in Sanskrit is called arthakriyakaritvam, the practical efficacy. Practical efficacy. If a thing works, it's true. If a thing doesn't work, it's false. So false currency. Children play with false, like, play money. So it looks like money. Is it true? The Buddhists will say, no, try to buy something with it, you'll get arrested probably. But it's not true. It doesn't work. You can't buy anything with it. So it's not real money. Now to this, so this is the criterion of truth. The Advaitin says, no, this cannot be the criterion of truth. The practical efficacy is not the criterion of truth. By the way, one modern American school of philosophy, William James, Charles Peirce and all, the pragmatism. So modern pragmatism holds that, they call it the cash value philosophy. If it works, it's true. And it's the basis of modern American education also, practical efficacy. Now, back to the ancient debate. What does the Advaitin say to this? Advaitin says, no, this cannot be the criterion of truth. Why? In my dream, I see water, I feel thirsty. I go to that water and I drink it, and it quenches my thirst. So according to your definition, that was real water. But it's not. I will not say when I wake up that I really drank a lot of water. I didn't. I can just as well wake up and feel dehydrated. So that was not the criterion of truth. How did I decide whether it was real water or not real water? When I woke up and I said, oh, that was the dream, and this is real water. Not because of whether it worked or did not work. It's because I had this cancelling knowledge that when I woke up and said, oh, That was a dream. That's false. The water I saw in it is not real water. Then I know that it's not real. So unreality, falsity is proved by that cancelling knowledge, badha jnana, sublation. This is how he defines. How do you distinguish between real and unreal? Now, if a person, for example, a person who sees a mirage from a distance and doesn't know it's a mirage and never is not interested, never goes to it. All his life, he can go through it with thinking it's an oasis. I live near an oasis. Actually, it might not be an oasis because he has never cancelled it. He has never gone and checked it out, and he has never found that there's no water there. He can remain all his life thinking it's real water. So what is truth according to the Advaita Vedantin? Ultimately, is that which cannot be cancelled, which can never be cancelled. Now, what is there that can never be cancelled? Everything else can be falsified. So we go back to Descartes and his, project. What can be doubted and what can never be doubted? My own existence as this conscious being, it can never be doubted. Even to doubt it, I have to be there as this conscious being. Consciousness can never be doubted. Existence can never be doubted. So what can never be cancelled? Sat, Chit, Brahman. That becomes truth, logically. If you cancel consciousness, consciousness does not exist. So what's the definition of untruth? The cancelling knowledge must be there. Badhita, the badha jnana, cancelling knowledge must be there. But the cancelling knowledge requires consciousness. So the cancelling knowledge can never be about consciousness because it has to appear to a consciousness. All right, anyway, we'll leave it there. That's just one question. I had selected 10 such debates to discuss today, but obviously there's no time. All about a suffix. Just because Shankaracharya said, like silver, it appears, the seashell appears like silver. That's an example of falsity. And they're all attacking your use of the word like, the suffix, what? And that's led to this firestorm of controversy. Anyway, we'll leave it alone now. All right. We'll end this session with a few stories. Shankaracharya composed this commentary on the Brahma Sutras. That was one of his major tasks entrusted to him by his guru Govindapada. The Brahma Sutras were composed by, relax, you don't have to take notes for the story. These stories are received from monks, from pandits, and they have multiple versions. So if you have heard another version of the story, don't worry. And all of them, they're all nice and they are entertaining. So Shankaracharya, he composed the commentary on the Brahma Sutras. But remember, the Brahma Sutras were originally composed by the sage Vyasa. So Vyasa composed the Brahma Sutras. Now Vyasa, being immortal, he got word. There must be some kind of monastic internet in those days, social media. So they heard that this young kid is composing a commentary on my sutras. So he decided to check him out and see whether this person, this Shankaracharya, is writing a correct commentary on his Brahma Sutras. So he comes in disguised as this Brahmin, wandering Brahmin. He comes to Shankaracharya, and Shankaracharya's prime disciple, first disciple, most beloved disciple, Padmapada, is there. And Padmapada receives this guest, says, "What do you want?" He said, "I've heard that there is a young monk here who is writing a commentary on the Brahma Sutras, and I would like to discuss this with him." And doesn't introduce himself. He's just some wandering scholar. Then Shankaracharya comes out and they engage in discussion. And Padmapada notices that what a fierce debate. He's amazed at the depth of these strangers, visiting strangers, vast philosophical knowledge and acumen. And he's even more amazed with the guru with whom he has lived, the young genius Shankaracharya, at the depth of his guru's knowledge also, which he had not plumbed himself. It required an opponent like this to bring it out. So they have this fierce debate. About what? Shankaracharya's interpretation of the Brahma Sutras, the Adhyasa, Bhashya, and the following commentaries. And of course, he doesn't know that the person who's debating is the person who has written the Brahma Sutras to begin with. So this debate goes on until every day this unknown Brahmin would come and challenge Shankaracharya. And then until Padmapada one day asks Shankaracharya, who is this stranger? How I've never heard of such encyclopedic knowledge. And Shankaracharya, of course, by this time has guessed who this is, and he says, "Why don't you ask him tomorrow when he comes?" So this guest comes, and before they start the debate, Padmapada, the student, asks the guest, "I think, sir, you must be none other than the venerable Vyasa himself. I mean, how else could you have such encyclopedic knowledge?" And so the Vyasa assumes his true form as the ancient Vedic sage, and he says, "You have guessed rightly, it is I." And then they start debating again. And at one point, they have a like log jam. They can't decide who's right, who's wrong. So Shankaracharya calls his disciple Padmapada. "My dear boy, tell me, who's right? I'm saying this, and the Lord Vyasa is saying this. Who's right?" Now he's caught in a bind, Padmapada, because on one side is Vyasa, who has written this original sutras. So I'm sure he knows what he meant.
Yeah.
On the other side is his own guru, Shankaracharya. So he replies, "Whose side can he take?" The very nice, funny verse. The verse goes like this. I'll tell you in the Sanskrit original and translate. "Shankara Shankaro Swayam Vyaso Devo Narayana Tayordayor Madhye Kinkara Kinkaromyaham." So Shankara Swayam is Shiva. My guru is none other than an avatar of Shiva. And Vyasa is an avatar of Narayan, of Vishnu. Tayor Madhye, between the two of them. Kinkara is a play on words, so it actually is a term for servant. This poor servant, this poor servant. Kinkaromyaham, what can I do between them? So it's a play on the words Kinkara. Kinkara literally means servant, and the one who takes orders. And then he says, "Kinkaromyaham, what shall I do? What can I do?" Anyway, Vyasa blessed Shankaracharya and said, "Your interpretation is correct." And Shankara sets off on his tour and all of that. And later, Shankara says his commentary on the Brahma Sutras, including the Adhyasa Bhashya. So we are transitioning into the second story. And then there'll be a third one, and we'll stop. And the second story is about Padmapada himself. So once Shankaracharya said, "My commentary requires further explanation. So I choose you to write that explanation. A sub-commentary on my commentary on the Brahma Sutras of Vyasa." So Padmapada wrote a commentary called Panchapadika, and the 5 stanzas or 5 sections. He wrote this commentary on Shankara's commentary, sub-commentary on Shankara's commentary. And he showed it to Shankaracharya, and he had written about 5 sections, and he showed those to Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya approved of it. This is an excellent elucidation of what I have said. So Padmapada expanded on what we are studying, the Adhyasa Bhashya. What he said forms the basis of what Mani Dravid Shastri has been saying, in all those 26, 27 pages. Now what happened was, Padmapada went on a pilgrimage, and different places he carried his book with him, his sub-commentary on Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras. Now he had landed up in his native village at his uncle's place. And his uncle asked, "So my boy, what have you been doing with your time? You became a monk, then what happened?" So Padmapada told him. They were all delighted. The family was delighted that the boy had come back. Padmapada told them how he had met this marvelous young monk, Shankaracharya, and become a disciple of Shankaracharya, how Shankaracharya had composed the commentary on the Brahma Sutras, how he had given him the great honor of writing a sub-commentary, and how he had written that sub-commentary establishing the supremacy of non-dual Vedanta, Dvaita Vedanta. And the uncle, who was also a very scholarly person, but he was a dualist. So he said, "Tell me, how does he explain the Brahma Sutras?" And then the innocent Padmapada explained everything, how Shankaracharya has explained it and how he read out from his book. And the uncle was thunderstruck. He thought, this book, if it gets published in those days, widespread teaching, and it becomes known, that will be the end of dualism. Non-dualism will reign supreme. So I must do something about it. So he tells Padmapada, that, my boy, this book is so valuable. Just leave it with me. You go on your pilgrimage, it can get lost. So I'll just keep it safe. When you're on your way back to your guru, you can pick it up from me. So poor Padmapada didn't suspect anything. Nowadays, he would have just uploaded it to the cloud or something. But then there was no other way. They were palm leaf manuscripts. So he left it happily with his uncle. He went on a trip. And he came back to find, to his horror, he found his uncle's house in ruins. And what happened? The uncle said, "What can I tell you? I'm so sorry. My house went up in flames, but that's not my real concern. Your most valuable work was burnt with the house." So see the amount of what jealousy can do. He burns his own house in order to destroy that text. The Padmapada sub-commentary on the commentary on Brahma Sutras. So I'm so sorry. Your great life's work is now lost forever. Padmapada says, "Don't worry, uncle. I had memorized the whole thing. So it's all in my memory. I can write it down again." You can imagine the uncle's horror at this. But he doesn't give up. He invites Padmapada, his own nephew, to a feast where he puts drugs in Padmapada's food so that he gets amnesia and he forgets his book. So he's thunderstruck. Now he can't remember anything. He can't remember Vedanta. He's an illumined soul. That doesn't matter to him. But he can't remember Vedanta. He can't remember his sub-commentary. So desolate, he goes back to Shankaracharya. And he narrates his tale of woe. And he says, "I don't think I can do it all over again. It's too difficult." Then Shankaracharya says, "Don't worry. Before you left, you had recited the first 5 sections of your book. So I remember those first 5 sections. So imagine, one time recite that, he remembers. So he recited it back, and that was recorded. And that's what we get from Padmapada's commentary. So that forms the basis of a school of Vedanta, sub-school of Vedanta called Vivarana school. Later on, another great teacher, Prakashatmayati, wrote a commentary on Padmapada's Panchapadika, on Shankaracharya's Bhashya, on Brahma Sutra.
Jeez.
And that was called Panchapadika Vivarana. And that's why this whole sub-school of Advaita Vedanta is called Vivarana school. Look it up. Vivarana school is a vast school. That's basically our school. The non-dualist monks you come across, we are basically, technically, followers of the Vivarana sub-school of Advaita Vedanta. All right. Now,
real quick, man, that's commentary on top of commentary. You think some things may get lost in translation, but I suppose if you, so long as you have all of it, then it'll be all right. But do they have all these books? So, I wonder how many pages it is.
Obviously, another sub-school. So this comes from one of the greatest scholars that ancient India produced. His name is Vachaspati Mishra. So Vachaspati Mishra, he was a householder, one of the most encyclopedic, tremendous scholars of Indian philosophy, not just Advaita Vedanta. His commentary to Advaita Vedanta is just justifiably famous, but also his commentary on Nyaya, his textbook on Nyaya, his textbook on Sankhya, called Sankhya Tattva Kaumudi. How beautiful these names that they gave. The moonlight which illumines the principles of Sankhya, Sankhya Tattva Kaumudi. It's a beautiful text. Then I read only parts of it, but it's really good. Then his commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and his commentary on the Mimamsa philosophy. So these are all even now they're studied. He lived just after Shankaracharya, so he maybe 1,200 years ago. Even now these books are studied. But he's most famous for his commentary on Shankaracharya's Bhashya, Adhyasa Bhashya, on his Brahma Sutra Bhashya, including Adhyasa Bhashya, called Bhamati. So this is the story which I'll tell, and I'll end with this. This story is that when Vachaspati Mishra was getting married, by the way, this is the stream of what you might call householder Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta. So the Vivarana school, non-dualists were mostly monks. They will criticize this. I remember a monk in the Himalayas who would say, Mishra ji ka Vedanta hai na? Mishra ji ka Vedanta, Vachaspati Mishra's Vedanta. So Mishra ji, Vedanta of Mr. Mishra. So there's a 1,000-year debate between these two sub-schools. But what happened was, So Vachaspati Mishra was getting married. And in his marriage, among all the elaborate customs, in those days, there used to be debates. The groom and the bride will, a part of the rituals was to listen to a philosophical debate, some philosophical debate. I guess now that's been ditched in favor of so many other things. There are very elaborate rituals and music and lots of things in marriages. But one of the features was you have to sit and listen to a philosophical debate between in some topic. So the topic that day, very important, significant, it happened to be Advaita Vedanta. So some scholars were debating Advaita Vedanta. And Vachaspati, listening to the debate, he was raging within. He's like, this can't be right. That's wrong. But he can't say it. He's the groom. He can't start, he can't spoil the festivities. And he made a promise. Wait, once this marriage ceremony is over, I'm going to set it right. I'm going to write a book which will clarify Advaita Vedanta forever. So after the marriage was over, he set to his task. He started writing this commentary, his sub-commentary on Shankaracharya's commentary on the Brahma Sutras, just like Padmapada. He started writing this. And he would be at it day and night. One day, he saw this lady in the evening. It was dark. This lady entered his room and lit the lamp and was quietly walking out. He was startled. Who is this unknown lady walking into my room? And why is she lighting a lamp and walking out, not saying anything? So he stops her. He says, who are you, my lady? What's your name? And why are you here? And she says, sadly, she says with tears in her eyes, she says, this is the first time you have spoken to me. We have been married so many years, decades have passed. And ever since our marriage, you have been at work on this book. And I do everything. I cook, I clean, I take care of you. Everything is going on, and you haven't even spoken to me. So it's like, some stories is 10 years, some stories is 40 years or whatever. And then Vachaspati was so taken aback, and he said, I haven't been able to give you anything at all in your life. I'm so sorry about that. And what's your name? He hasn't even asked her a name. Remember, this is old Indian arranged marriages, so he didn't even know the name of his wife. What's your name? She said Bhamati. And then he said, all right, I named this book Bhamati. As long as people shall study Advaita Vedanta, there'll be spiritual seekers in this world pursuing non-dualism. They will know your name as long as civilization persists. And that's true. I was just thinking, 1,200 years later, we're discussing Advaita Vedanta over Zoom, sitting here in Manhattan, and you're on all parts of the world, and we're still taking the name of Bhamati.
I do wonder what happened to the rest of, the life of them. Did they ever have kids? Was she happy? Good Lord, I mean, being taken, that work taking up most of your life and not even recognizing your own wife. Jeez. I mean, I understand that that's like focus. That is focus, but good Lord, take a break sometime. Damn, they said decades have passed whenever he finally spoke to his wife. Jeez.
Now, to bring you down from this very poetic, touching story, there's another version of the story. It says that Vachaspati Mishra was probably living in a city called Bhamati. That's why he named it. But that doesn't sound so good. This story sounds better. And I heard it from a Pandit, so some credence. Why did I tell these stories? So if you want to understand Advaita Vedanta in depth, the subtleties of it, the books you need to consult, the ancient books, are basically three. There are many, but three. One is Panchapadika Vivarana. Don't take down notes. They are all brain fryers. Panchapadika Vivarana, that which comes from Padmapada Acharya down through Prakashatma Pyati, that sub-school. It's called Panchapadika with Panchapadika Vivarana. That's one. The second one is Bhamati of Vachaspati Mishra. That's two. The third one is it's a much later, Govindanand, I think. It's called Ratna Prabha. Ratna Prabha. So these are the three which one studies in order to understand Shankaracharya's Adhyasa Bhashya and all the debates arising out of it. I personally remember, I didn't know all this. When I was in training, I came across a nice English translation of Bhamati. I can show you the book. I've got a copy. This is Bhamati of Vachaspati Mishra. And it's a nice English translation published in Chennai, the Adya Library and Research Center. And the foreword was given by none other than Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, who was a great philosopher, president of India, and so on. And it was translated by S.S. Suryanarayan Shastri. This is just the Bhamati on Shankaracharya's commentary on the first 4 sutras, Chatussutri of Brahma Sutras. And there, I came across this book when I was a brahmachari, and I started reading it. I didn't know what it was, but I found it fascinating. So, and the verses Vachaspati Mishra writes to Shankaracharya here. One of them is so touching. He says, Rathyodakam eva Ganga pravahapata pavitrayati. He says, just as water from a dirty lane, from a drain, falls into the Ganga and later is called Ganga water, is part of the Ganga, is purified and becomes part of the Ganga. Similarly, my worthless commentary, because it's connected to the Ganga of Shankaracharya, Shankaracharya's commentary, is also purified and elevated that way. And this term often used for Shankaracharya's writing, Vachaspati Mishra uses it, Bhashyam prasanna gambhiram. These are beautiful Sanskrit words. Bhashya means commentary. Prasanna gambhiram. Gambhiram, most deep, most profound. Prasanna, how would I put it? Shining, not difficult, smiling, happy. So a very wholesome and yet profound, this combination. I wonder how he has translated Prasanna Gambhiram. The clear yet deep commentary. Okay, that's nice. Clear, light, yes. Light or clear yet deep commentary. Prasanna Gambhiram, deep, Gambhiram, and Prasanna, clear. And that's a sign of best philosophical writing. And I remember in my extra time as a brahmachari, we had a very tight schedule from 3:40 a.m. in the morning till 10:30 at night. I would squeeze in, I would sort of, like being addicted, read this book. I was fascinated. And, so this is the Bhamati on Shankaracharya's commentary. Okay. So those are some stories. And that was a short, not so good introduction to the Adhyasa Bhashya of Shankaracharya. Let me end with a chant. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
I will say towards the end there, it seems like he was really reminiscing back in his old days.
The Adhyasa. We had a very tight schedule from 3:40 a.m. in the morning till 10:30 at night. I would squeeze in, I would sort of, like being addicted, read this book. I was fascinated. And, so this is the Bhamati on Shankaracharya's commentary.
It's kind of weird how his face kind of changed there a little bit. It was kind of happy, and then, I don't know, maybe, and it looks a little...
in the morning till 10:30 at night. I would squeeze in, I would sort of, like being
Smiling.
addicted, read this book. I was fascinated. And,
Smiling.
so this is the Bhamati on Shankaracharya's commentary.
And right there, what happened there?
Okay.
I don't know. But anyways, I guess maybe... I'm not too sure. But anyways, I couldn't really speak too much in this one. It's just mostly the stories towards the end here. And it's very interesting that a lot of them wrote commentaries on the Brahma Sutras. Then... oh man, I am terrible at saying these. Shankaracharya. Excuse me. anyways, the commentary of the Brahma Sutras, and then the commentary of the commentary, then the commentary of the commentary. I guess I'm not exactly sure what are those commentaries, but I'm hoping that they're there to help perhaps explain the I guess the explanation of the Brahma Sutras. So I'm sure it can be quite complicated and difficult to understand without having, I guess, people who have studied that for most of their life, not all of their lives, to interpret what they said. As a matter of fact, Shankaracharya has debated the original writer of the Brahma Sutras, and it's really weird for him to question, the original writer. It's like, no, I wrote the book. This is what I meant, and Shankaracharya is like, nah, I think this is what you meant. It's just really weird. And then poor guy, having to say, choose out of the original writer or his his Swami. But yeah, anyways, I'm kind of curious as to, I guess the purpose of those comments is to kind of simplify it so that more people can understand it, I'm guessing. And I'm kind of curious. Oh, as a matter of fact, that book right there they wrote was, in fact, was there 5 of them? But 4 out of the 5, I believe, commentaries. Which is, it's kind of thick there. The book is kind of thick. But anyways, that's my reaction to Adhyasa Bhashya 3. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.